Welcome to part 2 of interview skills and first impressions. Today, we're mostly going to talk about the interview process and common interview questions, how to answer those questions with confidence, and how to continue on in your interview skills journey. You look ready. Now, what do you say? So, in part 1, we got you to the door. You walked in looking prepared and calm. That first impression is working for you. Now, in part 2, it is all about the words. What will they ask you? How are you going to answer? This is what we're mostly going to talk about in this session. But here's the secret, guys. Interviews are predictable. Knowing that takes most of the fear out of them. Interviews are very predictable because most employers ask the same handful of questions, okay? There are no real surprises, just variations on familiar themes. And that's great because you can prepare ahead of time. Because those questions are predictable, you can practice your answers out loud, at home, with a coach, with a friend, a neighbor. Just practice before you ever walk in the door for your job interview. And the topic is already you. You are not being tested on surprises. You're being asked to talk about you, what you already know best, your own life, your own experience, what you're going to bring to this position. There are 5 kinds of questions asked in a job interview, and almost every single interview question falls into one of these 5 categories. Okay, so in order to prepare for these and make sure that you're ready for what they throw at you, we're going to talk about them. Number 1 is about you. They'll most likely say, well, tell me about yourself. The second one is about the employer. Why do you want to work here? The third one is your work history. What did you do at your last job? And then almost every single job interview I've ever had, they ask you about your strengths and weaknesses. What are you good at? What are you working on? What would you say your biggest weakness is? And then the 5th category is previous employment. Why did you leave your last job? So we're going to tackle the first type of question about you. Tell me about yourself. Okay, that's not your life story. You're not going to go way back in time and say, oh, I was born in this town in this year. Da, 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 da. No. Give a short, focused work answer. What employers are most likely doing when they ask you this question is they are assessing your communication skills, your professional confidence, your cultural fit, and they're also testing you to see if you can relate your past into your present. Okay? And what I mean by that is they want to see how you can connect your background to the role and hear who you are rather than just reading what you can do. Okay, so you're going to talk about these 3 areas: who you are, what you're good at, what you're looking for. Again, it should not be your whole life story or a full on, 10, 15-minute spiel. It's going to be very quick, concise, short. Here's a great example. I'm a dependable, hardworking person with strong customer service skills, and I'm looking for steady work where I can grow. Boom, done. The second type of question that you're going to get are questions about the employer. Okay, when they ask you, why do you want to work here? They want to know that you chose them on purpose, not that you're just applying. They want to know that you understand their mission, their products, their industry, that you've done a little bit of research. They're also checking to see if your personal career goals and core values align with this role. Would you want to work at a meat factory if you're a vegetarian? Would that align with who you are? They're also looking to see if you are motivated by the work itself, right? So you want to do a little bit of research, look them up beforehand, find something real that you can say about the company, their reputation, why that fits you, and then also name a real reason. You want to avoid saying, I just need a job, or giving a generic praise instead, okay? Show that you are choosing them. Let them feel that you're not just filling a slot, but you want this specific opportunity for this specific reason. And a great tip is to just do your research. Seriously, look them up, look up the company name, read all about them, look on their website, see what their mission statement is, and that way you'll be confident enough to give them a specific answer. The third type of question that you're going to get in a job interview is questions about your work history. Okay. And you're going to walk them through what you did. Use strong action language that we worked on in Module 3. Say what you actually did, not what your team did. Be ready to share a win. Okay. Have one thing that you're proud of, even if it's small, just a specific moment that you handled well says a lot more than a whole list of duties. You're going to keep it honest and specific. Real beats impressive. Okay. So a genuine, specific story is always more memorable than a polished but empty answer. Now, the reason that employers ask you about your work history is one, to verify your qualifications, right? They're assessing to see if you're reliable. Are you going to, stick with it? But they also want to evaluate how your roles and responsibilities have grown over time. They're really looking for clues about your reliability, growth, performance, all of those things. And they could also be looking for patterns in how long you stayed at a previous job to predict your future retention rate. Because if you've had, 3 jobs for less than 6 months, they're probably thinking, oh, wow, she's going to stay with my company for less than 6 months. So why do I want to invest my time in the onboarding and get all these things completed if she's not going to be with my company for long? So you really need to think about this question and prepare for it. The one everyone dreads, question type 4. And myself included, oh my goodness, I absolutely despise this question. Your greatest weakness. Blah. Okay, I would like to tell you why employers ask this question before I tell you how to answer it, okay? So employers ask you what your greatest weakness is because they're trying to gauge your self-awareness, your honesty, and your growth mindset. So remember in Module 1 when we talked about self-awareness, this is where this is going to really play in. They are judging your self-awareness here. They want to see if you can realistically evaluate your own skills, if you can take constructive feedback, and if you will proactively work to improve. All right. So don't say, I have none. When they say, what's your greatest weakness? Don't be like, well, I have none. I'm perfect. It sounds dishonest. Okay. It makes interviewers trust you less. And honestly, everybody has something that they're needing work on, right? Do not confess your worst flaw either, though. Okay? You don't need to share anything that would genuinely hurt your chances. This is not a confession booth. You're not telling them your most toxic trait. Okay? You just need to name a real minor one and then show growth. Pick something honest and small and then tell them what you're actively doing about it. That's the whole answer. So, a great example here is I used to be shy about asking questions, so now I make a point to ask when I'm unsure because it prevents mistakes. Boom, done. You're showing your self awareness, honesty, and then you have that growth mindset. My biggest advice to you during a job interview is to activate your storytelling mode. Tell stories. Don't just make claims because claims are forgettable and stories are memorable. Okay, anyone can say, oh, I'm hardworking. That sentence alone doesn't stand out at all. Stories are going to get you hired. The people who get hired prove their claims with a quick, real story. One good story does more than 10 wrong adjectives because stories create concrete evidence. They make you memorable. They're building that rapport and trust. Neurologically, hearing a story triggers the release of oxytocin in the listener, which also fosters empathy and trust. And then you can demonstrate your cultural fit by telling a story. And there's a simple tool for this. It's called the STAR method, and it gives you a structure for telling a good work story. It's short, clear, and it's easy to remember. This is the STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. Okay, and you're going to use this 4-part structure to shape your stories in your job interview. You're going to create your story or your answer into a story that is clear and it's a confident answer. So let's start with the S, situation. Set the scene in one sentence. Where were you and what was happening? Super simple. T, task. What did you need to do? What was your responsibility in that moment? A, action. What did you actually do about it? Be specific and remember to use strong action words during this part. Okay, and then R, result. How did it turn out? What did you learn or what changed because you did it? All right, now I'm going to give you an example of that. Okay, I am a teacher. So if someone asks me in a job interview, describe a time you adapted your teaching style to meet the needs of a diverse or struggling group of students. So, S, situation. I'm talking about where I was and what was happening. So, I would say, in my previous class of 22 students, I noticed that while most of the class grasped a new geometry concept, a group of 6 students was consistently struggling, losing interest, and falling behind on assignments. Okay, that's my situation. Now, my task. What did I need to do? What was my responsibility? So, here's my answer. Task. My goal was to re engage these students, assess their specific learning roadblocks, and help them understand the material without slowing down the pace for the rest of the class. That was my task. Now, action. What did I do about it? I'm going to use really strong, specific action words here. So, listen. During independent practice, I pulled those 6 students into a small targeted group and used hands on manipulatives instead of just paper worksheets. I identified that they were visual and tactile learners, so I transitioned to using geometric tiles and interactive whiteboard tools. Okay, that's what I did. I did that. I pulled those kids, I identified, I transitioned. Those are all action words. All right, and then R, the result. How did it turn out? What did I learn? What changed because of it? The result. The hands on approach sparked their interest, and within 2 weeks, all 6 students completed the unit assessment successfully. By the end of the term, test scores in the class improved overall by 20%, and those struggling students were equipped with confidence to tackle independent work. That R, that result at the end, that needs to be something positive that you did. Here's another example of STAR when handling a customer. Okay, let's just say your previous job was in customer service and you dealt with the challenging customer situation. A long line built up and a customer was upset about a wrong order. That's where you were at. T, task. You fixed the problem fast and kept the customer calm without letting the line fall apart. That's what you did. Now, action. You apologized, remade the order right, and called for backup to keep moving the line. Boom. Love those action words. And then lastly, result. The customer left happy and came back. My manager started trusting me with the busy shifts. That was the positive thing that you did. Here's another example of STAR. Work experience is not the only place your skills live, okay? Because life experience counts too. And remember, if you have never had a job before, this could be an example. If you're a mom running a household situation, caring for 3 kids and an aging parent on a tight budget. Your task kept everyone fed, on schedule, and cared for with very little money. That's impressive. A, action. Planned meals for the week, tracked every dollar, built a daily routine everyone could follow. And the result of that was you never missed a bill or an appointment, and you learned to manage time and money under real pressure. That's beautiful. That is a beautiful example, especially if you are a stay at home mom who's never had a job before. Use your real life experience in the STAR method as well during your job interview. All right, in a job interview, if you have a gap in your work history and you're asked about that by an interviewer, there are some important things that you need to remember. Okay, first off, a gap is common. Many people have gaps. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You just name it simply and don't over explain it here. Do not overshare. Keep your explanations very short, simple, concise, without apologizing for your time away from whatever job it was. Okay, keep it brief, be honest and short, then shift your answer towards the present. Always shift it back towards the present and say, and now I'm focused and ready to work. Okay, here are some examples that you can use. I took time off to raise my children, and now I'm focused and ready to work. Or, I went through a hard season and I've used this time to get ready. But now I'm here, I'm focused, I'm ready to work. Whatever it is, just make sure that you always keep it short, don't overshare, and turn it right back to the present because you are in this job interview right now and you're trying to get this present job. Okay? And always remember that you are more than your hardest season. How you show up is what matters most. A few rules for every answer. These are some golden job interview rules, okay? Always be honest. A lie in an interview has a way of coming out later. The truth delivered well is always the stronger choice. Never lie in a job interview. Secondly, be concise. Answer the question, give your example, and then stop. Rambling can undo a good answer. Don't overshare. Just focus, say what you got to say. Sweet, short, simple, done. And never badmouth a past boss or colleague, coworker. Speaking badly about a previous employer only makes you look hard to work with, okay? Even if it was a difficult situation, even if they were everything, all of the negative things are true about them, don't stoop to that level. Okay, never badmouth a past boss or colleague, but especially not in an interview because that makes you look like drama, 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 hard to work with, and all the things. We don't want that. And then lastly, the last golden rule for any job interview is tie it back to the job. When you can, connect your answer to the specific job in front of you. Show them why your experience fits their need. And we're going to reflect and move forward, one answer at a time. Okay, you can't script the whole job interview, but you can walk in with your answers already practiced, and that's most of the battle. Just take it one answer at a time. Now I'm going to challenge you this week. I want you to write it out. Write out your tell me about yourself. Answer it in your own words, say it out loud, and just practice it until it feels natural. Next, I want you to prepare one star story. Find one moment from your own life, work, or home and shape it into a star story. And then I want you to read it out loud. Practice it out loud. Practice it as if you are saying it in a job interview. And then know this material. This material is you, your experience, your honesty, your effort. That is what they're asking about. They're asking about you in this job interview. You are ready. You got this.